This is Jackie, and I'm here with Daniel in stereo at day 2 of Bunbury. How you hanging in there?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm really excited. Just got done playing, so all of the adrenaline and all that stuff is just like
go.
even for an acoustic set, which is something that I did not like anticipate. Was like,
Oh no!
I was like, oh, it's an acoustic set. Okay, it's gonna be kumbaya, and then I forgot that like our songs are upbeat, and I was like, oh wait a second, not that kind of show. So this is gonna be awesome. So
how did you prepare for that?
we kind of had I had just played a couple acoustic shows a couple weeks ago, and so it was fun to do those by myself. But I kind of just like figured like it might be fun to bring my band and get a drummer, even if it's just a stripped down kick and snare with a hi-hat, and then a bass player just to kind of free me up to still engage and try to make it a fun time in the shade, if you will. And so
it's a nice little setback there in
yeah.
in the woods there. Less shade, I think, is definitely at a premium here, so I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, it was fantastic because then we had kind of hustled to like try and get more people to come out, and then we discovered that we also had the advantage of like there's not that much shade, therefore people were already going to be chilling there anyway, so that was like really helpful, and we just got people as they were walking over, so it was fun.
Captive audience is always great.
Yeah, that makes it a whole bunch more fun.
And they're in a good mood because they're not dying.
Exactly.
They're like, this is good. I'll stay. Oh no, now I'll really stay. Like the music's good too.
Exactly.
So this festival is a great way to garner new listeners. For all the folks that are watching this out there, how would you describe your sound to new listeners?
So I was joking around with some of my friends the other day, and they were like, if you had to come up with an elevator pitch for what you would describe your band, and I was like, I would call us Africa's love child of the 1975 and the Killers.
Ooh, I think that's enough to intrigue new listeners.
Yeah, just be like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm from Zimbabwe, and I recently became a citizen like 2 years ago, and so I'm like, okay, cool. I still need to like, I feel it's important to like rep where you're from, and also be like, this is still home. This is like, I've got 2 homes now, but this is
I've
home.
got 2 homes. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I dig that. So for the new listeners, what's one song you would want a new listener to hear to get a good idea of your overall vibe?
Of overall vibe. Okay. That's so hard because each song's different.
Yeah.
So I would say yours. Try yours. We've got a whole motto. I've got a whole motto behind it where I always kind of tag every post we make and anything we play with, like at the end of it, I'll try to like sneak in like yours truly. Kind of comes from that kind of sentiment, and so yours would be a good place to start. And then hopefully, if you're angsty and stuff, we've got like Fool Me Once in Trouble. So like, depending on how angsty you want to be.
Fair enough. What influences your songwriting?
A lot of it comes from the stuff that I'm going through, stuff that I get to watch my friends going through. Kind of just the constant struggle of like trying to figure out how do I best address what's going on in my life without damaging those relationships, and trying to move forward in a positive manner to where like you address the stuff that needs to be addressed, but also like don't shy away from talking about the stuff that needs to be talked about, just in case you're afraid of confrontation. So I feel like that's a big influence right now in my songwriting. Another instrument influence is kind of approaching certain topics that are more, I guess, taboo, and trying to figure out like how do I myself process through this and what's going on, rather than bombard with an opinion and try to figure out like, okay, well, this is what I like. For me, I try not to point the finger. I try to be more reflective and be like, okay, these are the trouble spots that I'm having in my life. These are the moments, these are the places that I need to grow as a human being. And so how do I do that? And how do I also like create a space where people can feel comfortable talking about and go, like being able to feel comfortable going through those things, not by just yourself, but having somewhere else to kind of draw inspiration to.
Oh man, if we could all be more reflectful instead of telling other people what to think.
It's so easy to do this, and I catch myself doing that a lot. And so I'm glad that music forces me to be more reflective and to be more kind of like not necessarily just introspective, but kind of realize like, oh man, this is where I'm really messing up, and I need to like be cautious of that because that's going to damage relationships that I have. And I don't want that. I want to be able to like, I want to grow in all aspects of my life with people that I love, and to be able to like make sure that they can feel comfortable to like help me address the things that are going on in my life, as opposed to alienating them to the point where they don't feel like they can help me with stuff. And so I try to kind of, I'm glad music keeps that lit on me, because then it's like, oh great, like when you feel a specific way, always remember there's someone that's on the other side of it that feels differently, but their feelings aren't necessarily void. Their feelings aren't any less void than yours. They're just as important, and so it's important to kind of try to figure out like, okay, cool, like we disagree on this, we disagree on that, but like I still love you, you still love me, hopefully. So like, how do we?
Man, we need a lot more of that in 2018, please. That's great. Your new music, how is that an evolution from your 4 Years EP?
That's been a fun process of like getting like the people that I got to work with, and kind of just the challenge of with the 4 Years EP. A lot of the songs came from that place of like just like, I guess, more selfish, of like, okay, this is how you made me feel, and I don't care if I hurt you in the process. And with the new record, a beautiful mess, a beautiful mess or a beautiful wreck, is more or less like, oh crap, like I realized that I messed up, and I need to figure out a way to where we can, especially with yours, it's like the chorus is, honey, honey, please don't lock the door. And you knew that I wanted to be yours. You knew that I wanted to be yours through the bitter cold, as December called. You knew that I wanted to be yours. You knew that I wanted to be yours. You've got me out of my mind trying to make things right. And so it's that, like the back end of that is like, I've got to figure out a way for us to make this work, or to like at least walk away with the understanding of like we still care for each other as a human being, instead of just being reckless and kind of like burning it and being like, okay, cool, I set fire to that. I'm never gonna have to deal with that again. I'm never gonna. And I feel like that's so that I feel like with this record, with the new record, it was a lot more of those realizations, and a lot more of just like, this is how I feel at points, and regardless of how uncool it might make me look in terms of like, I feel like guys feel like, I personally feel like there's a lot of pressure on musicians to, especially male musicians, to play up to being a specific version of cool. And even in a day-to-day standpoint, it's one of the reasons that I love Childish Gambino, is like he's that guy. Like for me, I feel closer to him than I would like singer that's like super braggadocious about like, hey, I can get all of the girls and I can do all of this stuff. For me, I'm more on the opposite side, where I'm like, I'm still figuring out how to do that, and I have no idea what the right words to say, how to be smooth, and like how do I like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a lot of pressure for guys to already feel that way and to be able to already know how to do that. And for me, I'm like, no, I was the awkward kid all throughout high school and into college, and I still am in certain moments, and I'm still figuring that out, and I want to be able to write songs that encourage guys and girls to be able to like, yo, like, you don't know, you aren't cool, it's okay, like, no, I feel the idea of being cool is very, just, I'm not too crazy about it, because I feel like it implies that one person's version of cool is the only way to like, we all have to fit to that standard, and I feel like that doesn't encourage the diversity of like people, the things that people bring to the table. Like I think people that are able to like tech guys, nerds, I feel like those guys are super legit, because like they make things that like we use on an everyday basis that we like, and we shun them for it. But I'm like, no, you don't realize the phone that you're tapping on to talk to all of your friends, that came from the guy that was like stuck in his basement doing all of that stuff. And a lot of my favorite musicians are dudes that were kind of in that, like, still trying to figure that out, and they were more concerned about trying to, how do I reach out to people, how do I talk about the struggle between me and my dad, or how do I address like the struggle of me and my wife, or if you're married and stuff like that. Like those were the guys that were willing to like talk about that stuff. And so for me, I kind of want that to be the thing for us, and I very much feel like a beautiful mess and a beautiful wreck was a very good step into going into that direction and trying to figure out how to like start.
Speaking of technology and those things that we tap into, what role do you see music streaming having in your career or in music in general?
Man, That's a good question. I've been learning to be more accepting of it because I feel like I grew up in the awkward time period of like if you go into my van, you will find CDs everywhere. But then over the last, I want to say, couple years, I've been using Apple Music as my like streaming platform. And I know a lot of people use Spotify, and like I feel like there's a spot for both of them and a spot for Tidal. And I've been kind of like learning how those work. It's been cool to see how many people have been exposed to our music through Spotify and Apple Music, where like if you didn't buy the album if you didn't buy a physical copy of the CD or you didn't have access to the iTunes, like you wouldn't know about the band. And so I love how playlists are kind of becoming that thing where like everyone gets to share their playlist. Like, I look at them as like the mixtapes that we used to pass around with our friends.
Yes.
That you would be like, okay, great, I made you this mixtape or this mix CD for like people that you were like really like, these songs remind me of you. And I feel like playlists are essentially the same thing now, where it's like, hey, if you like this band, you like that band. If you like this band, you like that. I look forward to seeing it be more bold in certain aspects, where like the playlist choices are more very willing to like break artists that are like super risky. Because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and they were mentioning how like a lot of times like blogs and playlists will now become a little bit more reserved because they're kind of trying to like, they're waiting for something to break through first.
Cater to the general.
Yeah, and then they're waiting for it to break through before they break it. And for me, I'm like, what I loved about old school blogs and what I loved about that, they were like, I don't care if anyone else knows this, but I really dig this artist, and I feel like it's a good opportunity.
Why wouldn't you want to be the one that says, this is the band you have to hear, and I was the one that shared it to you? Like, I feel like there's some bragging rights in there. I think that is appealing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like for me, like I'm just like, that's super cool, and I look forward to seeing more blogs start to kind of do that more, because it'll be very much welcome, and I feel like it'll be great. So I hope that answers that question.
No, it absolutely does. No, I hope people start taking more risks as far as people who curate those playlists. It's important. So what's up next for you? Your Bunbury's done for you. You get to go play. So what are your plans? You know, this week, the summer. The summer.
Awesome. So we are working on late summer tour dates to start visiting. So Chicago is one of those cities that we're trying to hit. We're trying to go back to Columbus. We're trying to get trying to play a Cleveland, set up a Cleveland date in that time span. Also Indianapolis. So working on touring for late summer, early fall. We have a big EP release show on the 22nd of June for you all, for Cincinnati people. And we've got my buds in Reliant K. Matthew Thiessen is going to be playing the show. He's got a new project called Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes, and so they'll be joining us. And I'm super excited that they'll be part of that special night, because Thiessen played a electric piano on the record, and I met those guys through Matthew Hoops, and he introduced me to Mel Washington, and Matthew Hoops and Mel Washington kind of co-produced the record. And so I feel I'm super excited to like be able to like play my EP release and then have on that same bill this band that I like, the lead singer of the band that I like looked up to and like kind of grew up around. And so those are the two big. We also have another show in Cincinnati, June 29th, where we're opening up for Maps and Atlases, and so that's going to be awesome. Our friends in Current Events are going to be playing that with us as well. But between that, we're trying to set up stuff for college shows. So kind of we're in a lot of pre-production for hopefully a busy late spring, fall, and then hopefully a busy winter. But we're going to cap off June with just those two big shows, and then kind of like have fun, and then really sit down and like get the tour details sorted out so we can kind of just visit everyone, get to know everyone, spend quality time together.
Well, stay tuned for much more from Daniel in Stereo. This is Jackie, thanks to Chorus FM and In the Key of Change.